Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and today we're going to be looking at sand, the types of sand that we keep in our tanks. When we first started, we used a lot of pool filter sand, and we've since switched away from it a little bit, and so I want to talk about why. I do also want to mention we have a substrate video that I will put a link down in the description below if you want a more complete discussion on substrate, whether it's gravel or sand or eco-complete or fluorite. Definitely check out that video. We do a much more in-depth discussion, but today I really just want to look at pool filter sand versus the store-bought sand that you would find in a pet store. So stay tuned. All right, everyone. So I think what I'm going to do is take you around the fish room so you can get a better look at what I'm talking about. So the pool filter sand, it's not bad. One of the reasons why we started with pool filter sand with a lot of tanks is it was cheap. We could get a 50-pound bag of pool filter sand for about $8, and that 50 pounds went a pretty long way. And so that was a motivating factor behind using pool filter sand. Now, the other thing, it doesn't look too bad. It has a relatively natural look to it, and so we certainly enjoyed that. It wasn't too light, it wasn't too dark, so it gave us that nice medium look. The other thing is it doesn't really change the water parameters, and so I didn't notice a change in pH or water hardness or anything like that, so it's a very stable sort of sand to use. So why did we move away from it? Well, as we began to use the pool filter sand more and more, we noticed some problems. Thing number one, it's a very small grain sand, for the most part, at least the pool filter sand that we are using, and so cleaning it became a little bit of a hassle. And so we like to get all the detritus and fish waste and stuff and uneaten fish food off the surface of the sand when we clean the tanks, and we'll use a gravel vac to do that. You cannot put a gravel vac on the surface of that sand or it will get sucked up into the gravel vac, which would cause a lot of problems for us in our wastewater system. And so the trick is you have to get very close to the sand, stir up the stuff that's on the top without stirring up the sand. It can be done, and we do it, but it's certainly not ideal. Because we were not able to gravel vac the sand, as you might expect, in certain tanks, and not all of them, we would get kind of a matted detritus look where stuff would kind of build up and it would clump the sand together. We were having all kinds of issues with that. And so that started to become a bigger and bigger issue for us. And I think one of the reasons why that happens for us is we use primarily sponge filters. And sponge filters, as I've said before, they don't do the best job of mechanical filtration. They do great biologically, and so without having a hang-on-the-back filter or canister filters there that are kind of whipping that stuff off the surface of the sand and really collecting it, we were having issues with detritus collecting on the surface of the sand, and it was starting to clump up. Once that happens, it gets much more difficult to keep clean. So because of that, we started looking at other options. A lot of the fish that we keep, they like sand. And so we started looking at store-bought sand, and we decided to go with Nat Geo sand, National Geographic sand. And you can find that at most of the big box pet stores. We didn't know quite what to expect with this sand, but one of the things that we really came to like was, one, the color. And so you could get the store-bought sand, obviously in lots of different colors. For us, it's black, or it's a very light-colored sand, pretty much white. So we like that. But there were some other advantages that we found were really worth the extra money. And so I guess the downside with this sand is you're going to pay more. So instead of paying $8 for 50 pounds, you're probably going to pay somewhere around $20 for 20 pounds, or about $1 per pound. So it's significantly more expensive. However, what it saved us in tank maintenance has more than made up for the price difference of initial cost. And so now with that sand, at least for us, and the way our system is set up, we are able to gravel vac that sand. I'm not saying you're necessarily going to be able to do that, but for us, because of the way the tanks are set up and the amount of suction that we're getting from our gravel vacs going into our wastewater system, we can actually put the gravel vac in the sand, and the sand itself doesn't suck up. So it does a really good job of getting the stuff off the surface. It completely eliminated all of the clumping that we were dealing with, and that to me was worth the extra money. Now, again, for both of them, it doesn't really change the pH, it doesn't change the water hardness, so that's not really going to be an issue. I do like the way the Nat Geo sand looks, obviously because it's cleaner, because we can keep it cleaner, but also I just like the larger grain, and certainly that white sand is pretty awesome in some of our Tanganyika tanks. Now, in terms of plant growth, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. I know a lot of people will say that sometimes it can be hard to grow plants in sand, and that may be true for some plants, but at least for the plants that we're keeping, our soras, our crypts, wisteria, now lately Jungle Val. It's all been growing just fine. Anubias would be another one. It's all been growing fine, either in the pool filter sand or the Nat Geo sand, so that really hasn't been a factor either. Now, in terms of the durability, both sands are holding up just fine. I haven't noticed any discoloration. I haven't noticed a lot of fine particles in either sand, and so that's certainly been a plus. Perhaps one of the things I really like about the Nat Geo sand, or just the store-bought sand in general, is I haven't found a need to really rinse it. Now, I'm not necessarily saying don't rinse your substrate before you put it in a tank, but for us, I have not had an issue with just taking the sand right out of the bag, putting it in a tank, filling it with water. I have had no cloudiness issues. I've had no problems with fish. If you think that you're taking a chance by not rinsing it, by all means rinse it. But what I can guarantee is if you buy pool filter sand, you're going to spend a significant amount of time with a 5-gallon bucket and a hose rinsing that sand and getting out all the really fine particles, and that is definitely a little bit more labor intensive than just taking a bag of sand, putting it in a tank, filling it with water. So again, if you're looking for a more in-depth discussion on substrate where we include gravel and other types of substrate, definitely take a look at the video that we have down in the description. Also, we'd really like to hear what your opinion is of the pool filter sand or the store-bought sand. So if you've got an opinion, leave that in the comments section below. Again, I like this to be a place where people can go and research and read the comments and say, oh wow, this person had a great experience with pool filter sand. So maybe there are some people out there who can offer their opinion, their advice. If you have the Nat Geo sand and you've had a good or bad experience with that, definitely leave that in the comments section below. Would certainly appreciate you doing that. So if you like this video, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.